Hi, this is Kaleem. I wanted to share with you in this video a lesson on marketing for nonprofits. There are a number of challenges for marketing as it is, but when it comes to nonprofits, there are some unique challenges within the nonprofit world that makes it difficult. Many people think that nonprofits shouldn't be marketing at all. That's just relegated to profit-making organizations. But when you look at examples such as Mothers Against Drunk Driving, most teachers unions market themselves. Effective child development programs market themselves. The NRA, the National Rifles Association, markets themselves. The ACLU, they market themselves. And there's a reason. In this environment, you don't exist if you don't have your space within the webosphere, if you will, if you don't have that claim. These days, people search for us, often to validate our existence online. And if you aren't using the available tools and resources to market yourself, then the chances are you're weak in terms of certain positions and certain standings. Now, another challenge with marketing for nonprofits is those who make the final decisions don't have a clue. Unfortunately, and this is no indictment or blanket indictment against all the professionals that I'm about to mention, this is just my opinion. I've had 20 plus years of working with nonprofits, and these are some opinions I've concluded based on my experiences. The way the money or the physical decisions are made in most nonprofits, that gives an inordinate amount of control to the physical department. And they may be the nicest people, but they have no knowledge of how to run a program. In the case of running programs that serve children and families, it is rare that someone in the physical department actually even sees a child or a family. And for them, it's difficult to see that the numbers they track each day, every number there's a family behind it. Every number there's a child, there's a story. And so they just go through the numbers doing what they do. Unfortunately, many of them come from the so-called profit world. And they try to bring their, let's say, manufacturing record keeping into a service environment. And it just doesn't work. But they can't say it doesn't work. They, at least in my experience, they'll have their standard excuses. When their strategy or the way they want you to run a program doesn't work, they'll accuse those of us as program managers that we're doing something wrong. And if it's outside of their experience, they'll say we're committing fraud, and it's up to them to keep the agency on track or the organizations on track. Let me say this, and once again, this is not a blanket indictment against all professionals, but when nonprofits crash, when they go out of existence, almost every time that I'm familiar with, it's because of the physical challenges. They couldn't keep accurate records. They couldn't be accountable for the money they received and tying it in to what they were funded to do. That's just my opinion, but I've seen it enough to know that there's a challenge across the board in nonprofits. Now, this could be mitigated by the leader, executive director, whatever the director is called, that makes the decisions in the organization, understand this. And in the case of physical people, there are ways of tracking expenditures in different business models. And what works in the manufacturing sector doesn't work in the nonprofit sector. That was one of the biggest challenges that I had with financial people. And they couldn't conceive any other way. And they felt, in my opinion, that they would lose power and control if they acknowledge that they don't know how to track expenditures in a service organization. One of the things that I did is I referred, in the agency I work for, I referred them to the California Budget Project. At that time, this organization understood the challenges that nonprofit organizations have with their physical department. And as one of their solutions was they wrote a book that they made available to explain to physical people the differences in managing the accounts for a service organization. And it's different, not real different, but it's different from what they're exposed to. And so there's a challenge just in that. And the money is so important in a nonprofit organization that the physical people usually have an inordinate amount of power and say in the organization. And they speak to how programs are run, and they don't have a clue on how a program should be run. They don't see the children, they don't see the families, and they have no expertise. Their fallback is on, well, I'm keeping us in compliance because the auditors are coming, that type of thing. That happens almost across the board. Leadership can deal with that by recognizing that challenge. That's one. But this is specifically to program managers. Marketing is what's going to minimize the damage. Marketing is not just advertising an event, but it's sharing content about what it is you're doing to specific target audiences. Now, nonprofits have to market. They market to funders, market to potential donors. 65% of who look online to validate a nonprofit organization. They have to market to the people that they're serving. Also market to internally, the organization, the agency they're working for. If your marketing content includes information that's not going to undermine the physical department, then they'll be, most of the time, they'll be less apt to just disrupt what it is you're doing. Time and time again, I was with organizations and we were running stellar programs, but in an environment where there's a protocol of personality versus a protocol of professional standards, then the personalities run wild. I just wasn't good at those challenges. And I know sometimes some people say, well, it's all politics. Politics I can deal with because politically you have to be held accountable. That's just the way politics work. Now, some people say it's all politics because what that means to them is they didn't get their way. I understand that, but they use it as a pejorative measure. Marketing helps shield you as a program manager, helps you to shield yourself from that. It keeps those who don't have a clue what's happening from imposing their way or imposing themselves on the program you're running. Now, like I say, it isn't that they're bad people. They just locked into what they think they know. And I refer to it as in-the-box thinking. They want to use the latest categories, what the latest research says, and how it's defined, and what's the vocabulary to articulate what's happening. And that's fine within the box or within a conference that you're discussing it. But when it comes to serving children, families, and the vulnerable clients that need services of nonprofits, they don't live in the box. They live in the real world. And things just don't show up packaged like they do in the box. But leadership within the nonprofit world just hasn't grasped that yet. Sharp leaders, directors who want to minimize the chaos, recognize that there are different strategies going on, different mindsets. Physical people are going to do what physical people do. There's a way to minimize the damage they could do by giving unqualified advice or demands of programs. Programs have to be held accountable, so they need working records that they can keep that fits how they run programs, not that makes the fiscal department feel more comfortable. And I've seen that time and time again. Listen, I worked over 20 years in the nonprofit world, specifically in the child development, early childhood education arena. And I can count the times that I had an accurate account of the budget I was managing. I can count the times. That's how few there were. But that's part of the mindset. Finance people want to have control. And so they want to hold me accountable for money. They won't tell me how much is there, and they'll dip in when they want it to pay expenses that I didn't necessarily ask for. Not saying that this is wrong, but it's difficult to run a program when you're not aware of these monies being taken from your account. Now, I don't want to say it's fraud across the board. There are personnel costs. You have people in the programs, and there are costs to have them in the programs. And finance will take those monies out of your budget and won't necessarily tell you as program manager. And when your records don't match theirs, they have more say as a rule in the nonprofit organization than the people who run the program. To minimize that damage, marketing isn't just about advertising specific activities. It isn't just giving them glowing accounts of what's happening. It's holding a conversation with your various audiences. Those who you serve, your funders. You want to make sure your website is usable and easy to navigate. And the audiences that I'm mentioning, when they get there, they can see a section for them. You may have board members. They want to know what's going on, and they have to see it in a content that they can share with others, because part of their responsibility is representing the organization well. And we need to also especially market ourselves to the funders, because as a rule, we nonprofit organizations do a poor job of showing our gratitude to funders. We enjoy taking the money and telling them how wonderful we are. But most funders would appreciate if the program they funded, one, actually worked and produced measurable results. But more specifically, if they put in their marketing strategies where they receive funding from. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, most libraries that are effective child care programs, when they're talking their marketing, they almost always say where they got their marketing from. That's key. That's a step that you can practice if you work within a nonprofit organization. Understand that there are challenges, and although many of us would claim to be there for the right reasons, our actions sometimes show otherwise. And one of the ways for somebody running a program to counter the damages from that is to market. Continuously put the content about what you're doing out there using the tools that are available. I hope you understood some of the points I made in this lesson. If there's any way I can respond, if you have any questions, just enter them in the space below. Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe to this website. I'm going to share more tips with you that I think will be beneficial. Thanks again.